Nile Rodgers is one of the world's most successful record producers. He's worked with everyone from David Bowie to Diana Ross to Madonna. In the late 70s, as one of the founders of Chic, he was responsible for some of the greatest hits of the disco decade. Now, he's written his autobiography. It's called The Freak, and of course, it's about his adventures in the music business. But it's also about growing up with junkies for parents, about a dislocated childhood spent shuttling between New York and Los Angeles, and about a lifetime's addiction to drink and drugs. We invited him here to a studio at the BBC's Broadcasting House in central London to meet the author. Nile Rodgers, there's a wonderful passage in this book where you talk about playing a tuned guitar for the very first time, and something happened. What happened and why?
Okay, what had happened is I started playing guitar because that was the sexy instrument of the late 60s and the 70s. Prior to that, I had never played a guitar before. And my mom had a boyfriend who could play the guitar, at least at a rudimentary level, and he noticed that I was struggling with the guitar. I had bought a Beatles songbook and I was playing it, and I thought that I had played the positions perfectly, but somehow it just didn't sound right. And I thought that my technique was just off. And once he tuned the guitar, I replayed what I had been practicing for weeks, and it was the Beatles song, A Day in the Life. And I'll never forget it when I strang that first chord, and it was perfect. And I went, I read the news today, oh boy. Well, actually, I was going very slow, but still my positioning was correct. I just hadn't had it in tune. I say I felt like Sir Edmund Hillary. I felt like I had just climbed Mount Everest. I felt like it was the most special moment of my life.
Now, you went on to become a successful session musician to begin with, playing in theatre bands and in recording sessions. And then you met up with Bernard Edwards, and he was a bassist, and you clearly clicked in an extraordinary way.
Well, there were a couple of catalysts. The most unique one was, well, there were two, was I saw a band called Roxy Music here in London, and I thought that they had this completely immersive artistic experience, and that was interesting to me. They looked cool, the audience looked like them, and then a band that our keyboard player used to follow was Kiss, and Kiss didn't have a record deal, but Roxy did. So Roxy had these great covers and everything was stylized, and Kiss was anonymous. They used to wear the face paint, but when they got off stage, no one knew who they were. And I tapped into that because I said to Bernard, you know, we've been backup bands, backup musicians all our lives. No one knows who we were. What if we make that the foundation, the bedrock of our concept? So we dressed up in suits and called ourselves Chic, and we became a concept band, if you will.
Everybody Dance had an electrifying effect in clubs when it was played. Why? What is it about that song?
I think that there's something mystifying and maybe even seductive about those chord changes, because before we open our mouths, even to this day, when we play Everybody Dance for a person who's never heard it, and we just hit that dum 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 da da dum 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 dum.
Everybody dance, clap your hands, clap your hands. Everybody dance, clap your hands, clap your hands.
And I think maybe what happens is that you hear that and it attracts your attention, and then the chord changes come in and lay down that sort of sexy pad, and then this hooky element comes in that's very simple.
Tell me about David Bowie. There's, you worked with him in the early 80s. Let's Dance was one of the products.
Put on your red shoes and dance the blues. Let's dance to the song they're playing on the radio.
The strange thing about Let's Dance is when David first played it for me, I was staying at his place in Switzerland, and he walked into my bedroom and he started playing on a 12-string guitar the basic framework for Let's Dance. And at that point, I had been charged to make a hit record by David, for David, by David. And when he played it for me, it didn't sound like a hit especially if you're going to call a song Let's Dance. I mean, I know you're David Bowie and all, and I know that you could, you know, we're talking about the dance of relationships and the juxtaposition of it. It's like, whoa, dude. In my world, you call a song Let's Dance, people better hit the dance floor. So I rearranged the song, and we hired some local jazz musicians. We went into a studio in Switzerland, and we played it, and David absolutely loved it. The transformation of that song and David and pop culture and my life all happened with that little demo that we did in Switzerland.
When I read this book, I thought I've got to ask him all about the music, the people he's worked with, the producers. But what actually is really knocked my socks off in this about this book was the account of your early life, your childhood. You had the most unbelievably dysfunctional childhood. Yeah. I mean, just give us.
But
give
you
us, give
say
us
that nicely.
just give us a clue as to what it involved. I mean, for one thing, a mother and a stepfather who were junkies.
Yeah. So. Yeah, you can start there. They were both junkies, daily heroin users, interracial couple. My mother married a white man in 1959, and even in the heart of Greenwich Village, where everybody was hip and beatniky, it was not common for a white man to marry a black woman. That was still a head turner. I suffered from serious separation anxiety. My mom was never around. I always wanted to be with her. So consequently, I felt less than. Plus, my family, they're all so beautiful and blah, blah, blah. And in my world, I wasn't. I was the ugly duckling in my family. So getting high at an early age helped me feel like I belonged.
You became an addict, cocaine, alcohol, and so on, and then you stopped. Why?
In August of 1994, Madonna was having a birthday party down at her home in Miami Beach. I was just more drunk and more ridiculous than anybody you've ever seen. They tell me that I was carried out of Madonna's house. After they left me and they thought that I was going to go to sleep, I got up and went out and got more cocaine and came back and had my first bout of cocaine psychosis. And I was hearing voices clearly as I hear your voice telling me that the mafia was out to kill me and that they were over here. And no, they're over there. They're right outside the window. They're over here. They're in the closet. They're outside the door. And I really heard them, clear as a bell. And after that, I decided I'm losing my mind, because it was clear I was losing my mind. And I checked myself into a rehab for 8 months. And that was more than 17 years ago. And I haven't had a drink or drug since.
Nile Rodgers, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.